back in just a minute. In the year plus since her last competitive singles match, a lot has happened to Serena Williams. She got married shortly after giving birth to a daughter, an experience which left her hospitalized with life-threatening complications. That's all in her rear view now, and the winningest tennis player ever was back on court Thursday at Indian Wells, defeating Zarina Diyas in straight sets. Post-match, Serena was asked about taking a banned substance at the 2015 French Open, to which she responded she had a therapeutic use exemption, or TUE, for the drug to help her fight the flu.
I've never tested positive. I've always gotten a TB, so you should fact check that. In fact, no. I actually wasn't able to play the French Open, and I wasn't going to play unless I had a TB, because if you remember that year, I was incredibly sick. I don't know how I even won the match, and I said I can't. I literally can't play the final, but I need a TB to take a decongestant. So at the end of the day, that's what it is. But I've always been very happy to answer any question about that, and I've played over 20 years, and I've always been extremely honest.
Williams would go on to win that French Open, one of her record 23 Grand Slam titles. More First Take right now.
Love Serena. Great seeing her back and how she handled that. Meanwhile, Baker Mayfield may not be considered the top quarterback prospect in the draft, but he certainly is speaking his mind when it comes to letting teams know who they are getting if they pick him. Here's what he told Monday Morning Quarterback, quote, "There are a lot of things I would take back off the field to be a franchise guy. Not get arrested, not grab my crotch on live television, all that stuff. But the teams that want me to not be who I am, somebody who's going to change me mentally and take away my competitive edge, I don't want to play for you." Max, you like hearing this from Mayfield?
I love hearing this from Mayfield. The more I look at this quarterback class, the more you stare hard at these guys, the better Baker Mayfield looks. Originally, my thought was, there'll be a guy who we're not really hearing a lot about, and he'll be all of a sudden the #1 pick. This happened to Bortles. This happened, to a bunch of guys where you don't really hear a lot about them. Suddenly, Carson Wentz seemed to come out of nowhere. He wasn't discussed a lot through the year. And that's Josh Allen this year. And, of course, Darnold and Rosen. And Mayfield will wind up being, I figured, like the 4th guy people talked about. But he'd be #1 quarterback on my draft board. Baker Mayfield had like that kind of moxie, and maybe it's because I want that to succeed. But when I look, I don't see Johnny Manziel. I don't see that level of kind of personal problems with this guy. I see an edge. I think it's competitive. He's a winner. He's kind of a poor man's Deshaun Watson that way, does it differently, but has the same effect on his teammates. I thought Deshaun Watson went too low last year, and he proved me right, at least until he got hurt, obviously. Baker Mayfield, the idea really is also about his size. He's too small, but he's taller than Russell Wilson or Drew Brees, and he's built solidly like Russell Wilson. He can make plays with his legs. He energizes his teammates. He's more accurate than he's given credit for. And he has that kind of attitude where he's like, yes, I wish I hadn't made these mistakes. I would like to not make them again. But you're going to tell me not to do me? That's a mistake. I love that attitude. Baker Mayfield, to me, is the #1 choice at quarterback coming out of this draft class.
I say Baker Mayfield is wrong, but I say so respectfully because I think that he's missing the boat, and I think to some degree you are. It's not about asking somebody not to be themselves. It's about asking somebody to acclimate themselves to the environment that they're going in. Max Kellerman, I'm a guy that covered the NBA and has covered the NBA for over 20 years. It's one of those situations where it depends on the market. It's not about you not being yourself, but there's certain things that you can do and you can get away with it in certain markets and others you can't. For example, you can sit up there and let's just say, for example, you're all about the showtime and the hype and everything that comes with it, and you're in LA. That works. You go to Charlotte, that's the Bible Belt. It's an entirely different mentality, and it's an entirely different attitude. The level of tolerance that exists in certain places are not going to exist in others. Not to bring up bad memories or anything like that, because certainly such behavior is egregious no matter where you are. But if you look at what happened in Indiana years ago with Meta World Peace before, when he was Ron Artest, with Steven Jackson, Jermaine O'Neal, and others with the brawl at the Palace at Auburn Hills, as reprehensible as that was and as bad of a look as that was for the NBA, in certain markets, you had people who were more forgiving. In Indiana, it's a tough sell. it's a different environment and it's a different climate. And so when you're a particular athlete and you have to walk into these situations, you have to be sensitive to your audience, who's the paying customer, because certain areas are more tolerant than others are. So if you're Baker Mayfield and you're hold on for a second. If you're Baker Mayfield and you're acting a certain way, yeah, we're getting on you because you're in college and you're about to go to the pros or whatever. Nobody's asking you to submerge your competitive edge. What they're saying is maintain who you are and what you want to be and the things that you want to do, but be cognizant of the environment you're in and how it's going to be received,
and what makes
because that's the real world.
Max, I just got to ask you one thing. Does this sound at all entitled to you?
You're asking me?
Yeah. What he said.
No,
that he doesn't want to play for certain
teams.
teams.
I think he's first of all, that's within his right too to say that. Like, just because you think others think that's not the way it should be
whether
done,
this is right or not.
Just because you don't have a choice where you get drafted doesn't mean you shouldn't try to influence where you go. And the way he's trying to influence it actually addresses what you're talking about, Stephen A. He's saying, look, if I'm not the right fit, if this personality's not the right fit for your team, you probably shouldn't draft me. I love that. It's honest. He's going to do himself. And if the market isn't influenced, Stephen A., the culture around the market, whatever it is, he's saying maybe I'm not the right fit for you. So, hey, other teams, if you think I'm the right fit for you, draft me.
Yeah, but you're talking about a team. You're talking about, well, first of all, stop bringing up his right. Of course he has the right to say it. Who the hell's debating that? Nobody's questioning whether or not he compromises his rights. We know he has the right to say it.
Yeah, but the idea is, Molly said, is he being entitled?
Yeah, entitled behavior, I mean.
All I'm saying to you, Max, is this. What if he's saying it to the entire league? In other words, what I'm trying to say is that you're going into a league. You're asking to be elevated from the collegiate ranks to the pro ranks. This is where stuff like, and I'm not one of those guys that believes a player should feel privileged like a coach shouldn't or an owner shouldn't or anybody else. I'm not one of those guys. As far as I'm concerned, they should all feel either privileged or feel like it's earned. It shouldn't be separate for players compared to anybody else. But I think the part that you need to understand, Max, is when you're on the come up and you're walking into a situation, who are you to tell anybody this is what it's going to be like? Excuse me, you're acclimating yourself to their league. It's not the other way around.
But it's real simple. If they don't like it, don't draft them. If any team that doesn't like that attitude, don't draft them.
But I'm talking about the league. I'm talking about the league overall. Of course, individual teams have that choice. I'm just simply saying.
You're right. He's limiting the kind of teams that might draft him. You're right. That's right. But that's what he'd prefer. I think it's the right attitude, actually. Go to a place that appreciates what you got.
Yeah, agree to disagree on this one. But, Max, real quick, would you be happy if the Giants got him?
Rather than learn to acclimate himself?
Would you be happy if Baker Mayfield was the new quarterback of the Giants after Eli?
Yeah. Wow. Particularly if they don't have to spend the second pick on him.
Okay, there it is.
Well, hold on. Is this the same Max Kellerman that said Odell Beckham Jr. needs to grow up? Is that the same Max Kellerman?
But is this the same Max Kellerman who ain't giving up Odell Beckham Jr.?
That's not what I asked you. See, I didn't ask you to give me a question as an answer. I asked you a question for an answer. Is this not the same Max Kellerman that pointed to the behavior of an Odell Beckham Jr. and did say that if he doesn't change his ways, we might need to do something? Wasn't that you months ago?
Not get rid of Odell Beckham. I don't know what Max Kellerman you were talking to.
Max wants all the personalities. Speaking of New York guys.
What you said about his behavior. No consistency, but it's all right.
Yes, he did.
Number 2, the captain, Derek Jeter, the guy everybody loved, hasn't been too popular recently after his moves with the Marlins. Max Kellerman tells us why he deserves more credit. Stay tuned for his explanation. Final Take coming up.